Thank you, Theresa. My name is Scott Lee, and I am definitely alcoholic. I got a bad case of it, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to sit here and treat it with you nice people. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'd like to open, as I always do, with a quote from Lois Wilson, who was asked one time what she did in a moment of silence. And she said, I invite God to the meeting. It's not that I don't believe God's here. I do believe that. Things change for me when I stop and honor that presence. And so in a few minutes, I'm going to ask you to do that. Right now, I'm going to assume with this many people along, there's some new folks here. And if you're new or if you're not, and if you're having a problem with the God concept, or if you get here like I did, afraid there might be one, let me recommend you borrow mine. I recommend it very highly. He's got a great sense of humor and been keeping me sober for a ridiculously long period of time. So if you don't have a God, borrow mine. You can address him as God of God's limited understanding, get you up on the right foot. Let's just take a moment and each your own way, literally invite God to the meeting. I'll meet you back here. Amen. Thank you. I again, thank you so much for allowing me to come. I should tell you also, I have a central nervous system disorder known as essential tremors. My hands shake, and occasionally I get a negative head shake that I'm not aware of. So it's going to look like I disagree with what I'm saying. I don't. Now, I may later because I'm still learning. But if I say it tonight, trust the words, not the actions. And I just love to talk about prayer. And I think it's so important for me to be real with you. Sandy Beach, I had the privilege of sitting at his feet a number of times. He was not talking about relapse when he said, the measure of my recovery is not whether I get off the path. We all get off the path. The measure of my recovery is how quickly I got back on. The last time I got off the path was last night around 6 o'clock. And I didn't drink, don't misunderstand. But I got to singing the alcoholic theme song. For those of you who don't know it, it's me, 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 me. And I just got a severe case of the poor me's, and it went on for about 3 hours. I got up this morning and it was all over me. I did not feel like prayer and meditation this morning. I was told a long time ago that the day before I got to recover, how I feel is the most important thing in my life. And it was. And I chased it all the way into detox. Today, how I feel is the single least important thing in my life because I cannot allow how I feel to affect what I do. How I feel put me in detox. What I do keeps me in recovery. I did not feel like prayer and meditation this morning. I did them. I spoke with my sponsor about what was going on. I spoke with my best friend about it. And I did my spiritual readings. I did the things I've been told to do. And it didn't feel like it. During the day, something happened and I got a break. And I got a nap, which is really good for somebody my age. And when I got from the nap, I was back. And I'm back now. So I was off the path less than 24 hours. But I didn't do anything that I want to mend for. And that's an exciting thing for a guy like me. So to get to the topic at hand, on page 86, it says, when we retire at night, concerning the review, were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? I asked myself, what do those things have in common? Well, resentful is I'm angry because I didn't get my will at some time in the past. Selfish says I want my will all the time. I'm not thinking about you at all. Dishonest says I'm willing to lie, cheat, steal to get my will. And fear is the concern I may get my will at some time in the future. Do you hear the common denominator? I do. And that's what we got. That's what I got into. I got back into my will, and it worked every bit as well as it always has. It was just, I was a mess. Then further down, it says on awakening. I'd like to observe what it does not say. It does not say after a shower and shave, 2 over easy and bacon, a half a pot of coffee, reading the front page, and a fight with her. It says on awakening. And I think that might be what it means. Because I wake up with untreated alcoholism every morning. I need my medicine right now. It won't wait. I set my alarms 31 minutes apart. When the first alarm sounds, I make a quick trip to the bathroom. I hit the start button on the coffee pot. It's set up. I just hit the button and I initiate my morning prayer and meditation. 30 minutes later, the second alarm sounds. Sometimes that second alarm wakes me up. Sometimes I go to sleep in morning meditation. The step says sought through prayer and meditation, does not say achieved. And on those mornings when I went to sleep in morning meditation, I saw it, and that's good enough. I don't need to judge my meditations. Lorna Kelly, if you don't know that name, get one of her talks. She was one of the best we'll ever have. She said these alcoholics, they don't think they've meditated if they don't have an acid trip. That meditation is blue collar. You clock in, you clock out. What happens in between is none of your business. It's like my spiritual growth. I'm not qualified to judge it. I'm just not qualified. I don't need to be judging it. What I need to do is commit the time to it on awakening. An old friend of mine, actually the second guy I worked with that made it, said his disease got up 20 minutes before he did every morning. He did some jumping jacks and some push-ups. It perched on the headboard and it waited. He opened his eyes, roar, and it jumped on him. And he woke up without treatment. I need some medicine right now. I get that. I get that. Because the committee will kick in so fast. It is absolutely astounding. I'm going to share my morning prayer with you. And I'm going to go down some rabbit trails and I maybe get back, maybe not. Growing old has not been easy on my mind. I begin by thanking God for some things. That was difficult this morning. I was able to do it. But it seems that thanking Him for things opens the channel. I don't think God needs to be thanked. I need to thank. It's for me. And the more sincere and the wider this thank you list is, the better I get the channel open. And then I invite Him into my life as God, as CEO, as manager, as boss. I use all those terms to run my life today. And I note that I'm volunteering for service. I was not drafted. I'm a volunteer. I'd like to volunteer for service. And I ask you to please relieve me of the bondage of self. Empty me of self and fill me with your love, shaken together, pressed down, heaped up, overflowing. They may gush out of me all over everyone I meet today. That's the first thing I ask for. Then I ask Him to bless me. I'd be a great listener today. That I don't just stand there watching your lips move, waiting for you to finally shut up so I can say this brilliant thing I'm writing, but actually listen to you with my whole being. Don Major, if you don't know that name, get one of Don's talks. He was maybe the best we'll ever have on step 6 and 7. When you were in front of him, he had a focus on you that you could almost feel it. I want to have that. So I asked for it. Bless me, I might hear with my whole being. Bless me, I might be a great giver today. Financially, yeah. But more importantly, those are the most important things in my life. My time and my attention. Bless me, I might be a great giver of those things. I got an astonishing lesson. It's been over a decade ago now. One morning, I suddenly saw how judgmental I am. It's terrible. In those days, I was in my 70s. I was wearing a ponytail. I would judge you for having a funny haircut. Before my cancer, I was 60 pounds overweight. I would judge you for being heavy. I went around all day judging people. I didn't know it. And all of a sudden, I saw it. And I don't believe God wants me to judge. So I added that to my morning prayer. I asked Him to help me not judge any situations. Let me tell you how difficult that is for me today. I've been to Ukraine 3 times and Russia twice. I sponsor a guy in Ukraine. I'm the only sponsor he's ever had. He's carrying a 17-year chip. I've been over there. I know people over there on both sides of that thing. And yet I don't get to judge that war as bad. Because for all I know, that war has turned more people toward God than all the churches in the universe. I don't know. And I need to step out of the judgment business because I've discovered the source of all anger. I know where it all comes from. It comes from being sure I'm right. I've never been angry if I wasn't also absolutely certain I was right. And being right comes from having passed judgment. I got to judge to be right, to be angry. So anger isn't the problem, it's a symptom. That's why it can't be treated. The problem is judgment. The problem is judgment is the grandmother of anger. If I don't judge, I don't get right. If I don't get right, I don't get angry. I worked that out about 10 years ago and added to my morning prayers. Bless me, please, that I do not judge any situations. Bob Darrell tells this wonderful story. If you don't know that name, get one of his talks. Way back when the Chinese farmer, the sharecroppers could own their livestock, but they couldn't own anything else. And this one guy had this magnificent white horse. He woke up one morning, the horse was gone. And his friends all said it's such a bad thing. He says, I don't know if it's good or bad. So I had a horse, now I don't. The next morning he woke up and the horse was back in his corral with 6 other horses just like him. And his friends all said, it's such a great, wonderful thing. He said, I don't know if it's good or bad. I had a horse, didn't have a horse. Now I got 6 horses, 7 horses. The next morning, his only son was saddle breaking one of the new horses. He got thrown and broke his leg. All his friends have said it's such a bad thing. I don't know. Had a horse, didn't have a horse, 7 horses, got a son with a broken leg. I don't know if it's good or bad. The next morning, the army came through and drafted all the young men to go die in a battle. He couldn't take his son because he had a broken leg. And I'm trying to learn what he knew, what Don Pritz used to say, as you wish, that I'm not a judge of how any of that stuff is. And if I don't judge, I don't get angry. I've discovered what I think is the most evil thing in the universe, and it's good motive. There's a guy in Moscow, Russia today that believes he's got a good motive for starting a war and thousands of people dying. A guy named Adolf Hitler in the 1930s and 40s thought he had a good motive for killing millions of people. He was going to purify the race. I'm told Al Capone was asked one time why he was in all that illegal stuff. And he said, I was just trying to give people the things they wanted. Capone had a good motive. It's really important for me. Page 60 in the book says I can't trust my motives. It's not bad to have good motives. I'm in favor of that, but I can't trust them. Cliff Roach, if you don't know that name, get one of Cliff's talks. Cliff said the 12 traditions are a set of principles designed to protect AA from my very best motives. That's what our principles do, is they protect us from our motives. That's why step 12 is not saying had good motives in all our affairs. It's because motive is not the final test. It's good to have good motive. Don't misunderstand. It's not the final test. The acid test is principle. Absolutely is principle. Motive governs outcome irrespective of action. Motive says I can do anything I need to do to make it come out the way I know it should come out. It's one of the ways I play God. So motive governs outcome irrespective of action. Principle governs action irrespective of outcome. We talk about turn it over to God. What I turn over? I turn over the result. How do I do that? 1, I stand today where he is. 2, operate within his principles. And then he handles the result. Phenomenal experience for me. I'll share a prayer with you. I moved out of the home my first wife and I were living in when I was sober 6 years. She used to control me with that guilt, and I was guilty. Oh boy. Well, I went through those 12 steps. I got my innocence back. She couldn't control me. It made her crazy. And she's screaming at me one more time. And I got this moment of clarity. And I realized I'm just before punching her in the face, and it's going to be a full stroke. And when she goes down, I'm going with her. She's on the way to the hospital. I'm on the way to the jail. It's a bad plan. Worked it out all by myself. It's a good thing wasn't anybody else there. And I didn't about face while she was still screaming. Got in the car and drove away. Started looking for an apartment. 48 hours later, I moved. It was imminent. She wasn't going to quit that. And the day was going to come where I was going to beat her up badly. And I didn't know what to do. I went to Old Timers. I said, what should I do? They said, turn it over. I said, how? Nobody could tell me. Believe what you like. I believe what I'm about to tell you. I went to the source with it. This is what I got. The first thing is what I turn over is the result. We just talked about that. So how do I do that? I stand today where he is and operate with his principle. But the second thing I got was a set of prayers. And I share them in case anybody needs them, because we're here talking about prayer. Prayer number 1, God, if it's your will for us to be together, put us together. Prayer number 2, if it's your will for us to be apart, put us apart. Those are the easy ones. Here's the big one. God, if it's your will for me not to know today, please leave me not knowing. That's the one. That's the one. This one day at a time is the single hardest assignment I've ever been given, is to just be here. Just be here. My mind wants to go off into the past, reliving victories, some of which may have actually happened, or off in the future, trying to figure it all out. Plan A and plan B, and what if the other, what if, and I'm rarely between the claps right here, right now. My mind could learn a lot from my feet. My feet are rather nattily clad, by the way, tonight. They do match my bow tie. I think you should know that. My feet never go into the past, and they never go into the future. They're right. My mind can learn a lot from my feet. So this staying in the here and now. And I was able to pray those prayers. I was able to have my sponsor's definition of serenity. He said, serenity is not freedom from the storm. Serenity is peace in the middle of the storm. The only way to have that is to give up my need to manage the storm. The only way to do that is to know the manager of all storms. That's what this whole thing is about. That's what the whole thing is about. For me, step out of management. Quit singing the alcoholic theme song. I had another experience I want to share with you. Some time ago, I was sitting by a stream, just sitting, and I saw a thundercloud. I was sitting there looking at the cloud, and it occurred to me, every drop of rain in that thundercloud's falling on God's will perfectly. I know they are, every one of them. And so's that tree, and so's the bird in the tree, and so are the minnows in the stream. Why can't I? It was on me heavy. Why can't I? And I got my answer. The answer is I am. I am. I'm convinced to the depths of my soul that it's not my job to be perfect. If you think it's your job to be perfect, I wish you a lot of luck. It's going to be a tough trip. But if it's not my job to be perfect, what's my job? My job's to make mistakes. They've said the right guy. They've been telling me all my life to learn from our mistakes, and it ain't so. People like me don't. If we learn from our mistakes, I'm not looking at anybody that's been arrested more than once. Good luck on that. No, guys like me do not learn from our mistakes. I'm like the dog that wet on the rug. What do you learn? Nothing. When do you start learning? When you rubbed his nose in it. Me and the dog, we prefer to have our nose rubbed in it. It is not the making of the mistake that I learned from. It's making the amend. It's embracing the results of my mistakes is where I learn. If you hold that thought and read the 12 steps, you'll probably notice that half of them are about me embracing the results of my mistakes. 4 and 5, 8 and 9, 10 and 11 are all about me embracing the results of my mistakes. So here's the learning process as I understand it today. 1, make a mistake. I have a definition. A mistake's an invitation to a lesson. That's all it is. It's a lesson dressed in its work clothes. And I don't have the power to make a mistake so ugly that God can't turn it into something magnificent, not fixed. That's who I am. That's who he is. It is that simple. 1, make a mistake. 2, be notified I made a mistake. I don't always know. 3, own the mistake. Yeah, that was me. If they only know 80%, I got to tell them the other 20. That's how I own it. 4, consult a spiritual advisor about how to 5, make the amend. Usually, not always, there's an amend to be made. 6, embrace the lesson. The lesson does not come with the making of the mistake. It comes with the making of the amend. That's where I get the lesson. 7, share the lesson. That's what really sets it for me. 8, when I share the lesson, I have to tell you I made the mistake. If I just share the lesson I'm preaching, nobody wants to hear it. When I stand as a sinner beside a sinner, he can hear me. 9, make the next mistake. It's why I'm here. I've located God's will. I found it. It's for me to screw up so that I can learn the lesson that screw up presents. I think it's why I'm here. I think it's why I'm here. I always thought I had to be perfect. I used to beat myself up when I wasn't perfect. And that didn't work out real well for me. So page 87, as we go through today, this is interesting. As we go through today, we pause when agitated or doubtful. Usually people quote this, they just say agitated. Because I'm an alcoholic. I'm not right very often, but I'm never in doubt. All right, so we don't deal with the doubtful thing too often. But pause when agitated. I think God is waiting very patiently for me in the pause. And the pause is, God, I've judged again. I must have because I'm angry. And anger and love never travel together. And serving the God of love is not a part-time job. And it's critically important for me that I continue to serve the God of love. That's what I've got to do. Nothing else works for me. Nothing else. Boy, I hope you can still hear me. My computer just did something weird. Somebody say something so I know if you can hear me.
Yeah, you're good, Scott.
Okay, thank you. I just lost picture. Does somebody know where we are in this?
You were talking about the pause.
Oh yeah, pause when agitated. Yeah. So I go to my Father and I say, I must have judged because I'm angry again. Please take away this anger and judgment and grant me love and sadness. Because love and sadness travel well together. Anger and love never do. When I go back to whatever the situation is with love and sadness, he can hear me. And in addition to that, I rarely make amends. If I go back in anger, I wind up making amends all the dadgum time. So my morning prayer, I'm going to go back to that, is I ask him to bless me. I don't judge any situations. I don't judge any people. That I see them as he sees them and love them as he loves them, especially the ones I find unlovable. I especially ask that I don't judge anyone's motive. One of the biggest problems with motive I talked about earlier is that if I believe I have good motive and you oppose me, you clearly have a bad motive and you're a bad person. You deserve me to hate you, and I do. Man, my country is covered up with that right now. It's one of the things that's killing us, I think. Got to get out of the motive business. Quit worrying about anybody's motive and just learn to love them. I bet a lot of people have had this experience where all of a sudden you heard a piece of the great truth come out of your mouth that you didn't know. And one of the guys I sponsor called me about a decade ago, and we were chatting, and he was rah, 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 this guy in my home group. And I heard myself say, isn't part of our assignment to learn to love the unlovable? And he and I both said, wow, because I didn't know that. I didn't know it. And that's what happened for me, that magnificent gift. So I asked him to bless me that I might love them as see them, he sees them, and love them as he loved them. I asked him to make me a great student. I believe life is a school. I think love is the subject. I'm pretty sure I flunked out of somewhere else. I was expelled as a behavior problem. If you've ever heard my story, it'd make perfect sense to you. And the first lesson, lesson one, was, well, Scott, how's it work when you run full throttle after your own will? How's it working? And with that piece in place, how'd you like to trade that in on God's will, sight unseen? Can't be as bad as yours. That's really step one, and step three is what I'm talking about here. And I made that decision, and it's working awfully well for me. I asked him to bless me. I don't miss any opportunities to be of service, to spread love and joy. We've had over 10,000, we've had over 30,000 people a year moving to my city for the last decade, and we don't have room for them all. And we got traffic jams now, and that's a real problem for us. And it used to be when the traffic came jammed up into a stop, I just sit there and fume. Now what I do is I reach into my pocket and I pull out a clown nose and I put it on, and I reach into my pocket and I pull out my bubbles, and I start blowing bubbles out the window to get the other driver's attention. And they see the clown nose and they start laughing. And I see them laughing, I laugh, because laughter is contagious. Now we're still stuck in traffic, but I've turned it into a party. If we're really stuck, if it's a wreck and we're going to be there a while, I put it in park and shut it down and get out and start passing these out. I'm carrying maybe 100 clown noses and bubbles in my car right this second. And I've always got at least 3 on me, unless I've given them away. Or I'm walking through the grocery store and there's a mom there with 2 kids, and they're good kids. I'm going to tell you right now, those are good kids. They're just having a hard day. So I suit up and I start blowing bubbles. And kids will lock onto bubbles like a good bird dog coming on point. It's amazing. The screaming stops right now. And I walk up to the mom. I get about 10 feet away and do that. Walk up to the mom and say, can the kid, I'm a stranger, I don't want to give your children anything, but can the kids have the bubbles and clown nose? I got 1 no so far this year. And I say, thank you. And I just walk away. Usually they say yes. And I've got enough for all the kids, unless they got more than 3. And what happened? Those kids had their day lifted. Who else? Mom. Who else? Everyone that saw it. Who else? Me. If I'm sloshing love and joy all over you, it splatters onto me every time. There is no way to block it. I have lit up an entire airport when they were canceling flights. I'm stuck anyway. Might as well turn it into a party. Serving the God of love is not a part-time job. The incoming tide lifts all boats. I want that tide to be made love and joy. And I take responsibility for that. And it's changed my life. So I ask him to bless me. I don't miss any chances to be of service, to spread love and joy, which is really the same thing. As I read the big book, the single thing that runs wider and deeper than any other is be of service, help others. I find that in over 50 pages just in the text before you get to the stories. It's what, it didn't matter what's going on in my life. My answer is to help you. It makes no sense. It also works every time. Phenomenal thing. The other thing I asked for is I asked God to bless me. I don't miss any of his guidance. I quit praying for guidance about 35 years ago. When I pray for guidance, I'm giving God his instruction. Big fella, take a knee. Let's go with the guidance. I'm literally, and some of you may have noticed, God's hard to train. And I know he moves slow. It's because he's old, but he's hard to train. And I finally gave up. And I'm just not going to try to train God anymore. So that means I don't get to tell him about guidance. What I say is, if you have guidance from me in this category today, please help me not miss it. It occurred to me 35 years ago, as I was praying for guidance one time, that a loving God is sending that guidance every day as a free and clear gift. I'm asking for what's already been given. And all the blocks in the channel between me and God are at my end. We already talked about that. So I asked him that I would be open to his guidance. One of the things I've been asking for recently, and I can report a little bit of progress, is to remember to check in with him frequently during the day, to check back in, check back in. The most spiritual man I've ever known, a guy named Burke Harlan. Don't go to bed tonight. Burke Harlan, High Point, North Carolina. I finally asked him, I said, when Burke walked into the room, like somebody stuck the gold knob in and turned the world down about 3/4 of a turn. You could feel it when he walked into the room. I said, how do you do that? He said, I don't know. I said, will you admit? He said, yeah, I do. I said, how do you do it? He said, I don't know. I said, well, tell me about your day. What's the very first thing you did this morning? He says, well, I thank God for an alarm clock, so I get up on time. What was the second thing you did? Well, I thanked him for a flush toilet. What's the third thing? Well, I thanked him for hot water and shaving cream and a sharp razor. And I thanked him for a nice warm shower and shampoo and soap. I thanked him for a fluffy towel. And Burke went through the day giving thanks. And it becomes habitual to him. He did not know he was doing it. I can't get all the way to the driveway doing that. I try. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't even begin to imagine what a day would look like or feel like if I could do that. Just for half a day, just for a half an hour. Anyway, I've been praying and looking for some help on that because I think that would be a good thing for me to do. And then I entered the love meditation. The love meditation was born at the first men's retreat I attended in 1989. There were 4 of us, and we were talking about a lady in our home group who'd come out of a coma. And she said while she was in the coma, she could feel the love and the prayers being sent to her. And what we call today the love meditation was born. I know a number of you have had the privilege of doing it. The mental image is that love is like a column. It's about the size of the top of my head. It comes down out of heaven, down through the top of my head, up my nose, my mouth, and my chest. Mine has been silver and shimmered and thrown out rainbows for a long time. And now it's starting to look just like a rainbow. I don't have much control, and I don't care much about that either way. But I sit there and I send love. And this morning, I sent love to all the guys I sponsor and their ladies. I sent love to all my family members. I sent love to some friends of mine who are having a difficult time physically. I sent love to my husband-in-law. For those of you who are not from the South, my husband-in-law is the guy who's currently married to my first wife as a husband-in-law down South. And he's dying of cancer. And I'm not mad at him. I'm sending them love. I sent love to all the places I was going today. So there'd be some there when I got there. I sent love to the trip there. I sent love to you. This morning in my meditation, I sent love to everyone who was going to be on this screen. I sent it. And when I close my night, as soon as we finish this meeting, I'll be closing with a love meditation. And I'll be talking about a lot of people. I send love to a tremendous number of people. And it has served me well. It has served me well. I've been really happy with it. When I finish the love meditation, I ask for some specific things. I ask for humility, which is a scary thing to do, but I've been used to touch a lot of lives, and I got a tendency to get confused. I got to remember, I need to be reminded I'm not the living water, I'm the pipe. On a good day, I'm a plumbing fixture, but I need to be reminded of that. So I ask for humility to help me remember that it's him working through me. And I ask for love. I ask him for that I would be in a bubble of love, that I might just exude it everywhere I go. I ask for faith. You know, when I'm short of anything at all, what I'm really short of is faith. And I've been short of faith in several categories recently. I've been talking to him very specifically about them. That I'm not asking him to fix those categories. I'm asking that I would have faith to believe that that situation is as he wants it now, and that therefore it is the best way it can be. And that if it needs to change, that he will see that it changes to get me out of management. I quit asking why questions almost 40 years ago when my sponsor explained to me that why is a management question. And first step says you ain't in management. Consequently, all the questions begin with why have the same answer. And the answer is you don't need to know. And I hated that when I first heard it. Because see, I thought it was not knowing that made me crazy. Incorrect. It was needing to know that was making me crazy. When I laid down the need to know, I got peaceful. From a position of peace, I began to know. But the knowing is not worth anywhere near as much as the peace. And then I asked him, whose feet can I wash in your name? What can I give? How can I best serve you today? And recently I started asking, how can I thank you today? How can I do something today to thank you for this magnificent life you've given me? And then I start my day. Um, I do a quick cleanup. I get into my office. I've got about 10 or 12 spiritual books that I read from. I read 2 pages a day in the big book. Let me tell you something. You start Roman numeral 11, go through Dr. Bob's story. You read the book almost 4 times a year. And 30 or 40 years from now, you'll be able to find what you're looking for in that book. People are going to accuse you of having memorized long sections of it. I didn't memorize it. I just read it a bunch of times. It's the only way you can find the new stuff. And I'm going to go a little bit afield here because I got a couple of minutes left. But they've added some things to page 13. For those of you who read the book regularly, you know what I'm talking about. About 10 lines down on page 13, he uses the word friend with a capital F. I swear that wasn't there. I know it wasn't there. I would have seen it. And it's a reference to the idea that God is a great friend. I got here afraid there might be a God. God's will. And if you're even thinking it, you're going, I ain't just been thinking it. So I needed a whole new God concept when I got here. But they also changed at the last paragraph, they added a word. It says, my friend promised when these things were done, I would enter upon a new relationship with my creator. If you'd asked me a year ago, before I came to AA, if I had a relationship with God, I would have told you no. And I could have passed the lie detector. And it's not so. I did have one. It's called 911. See if you recognize any of these pre-AA prayers. God, please help me pass this test I didn't study for. Please don't let her be pregnant. I'm told I can be prayed in the first person, ladies. Please don't let those flashing red and blue lights be for me. And the all-time most famous one, God, get me out of this and I'll never do it again, which is I used to pray that most nights. So I did have a relationship with God. It was 911. When I look at it today, what I see is in those days when I prayed, I was trying to make him my God. And taught here is how to make me his man. See, I had it backwards. My sponsor told me 40 years ago, prayer is not an opportunity for you to change God's mind. It's not a sales presentation. It's a chance for God to change your mind. The last time I was between wives, I took a little picture out of my wallet and had it blown up 2 feet by 3. You see it over my shoulder here. This beautiful little boy. I was about 4 years old when I was taken. Sometime not too long after that picture was taken, some things happened to him that should never happen to any child. I've been through the forgiveness process in step 4. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please, please, please find out. It ain't about right. But through that process, through the prayer work, I became emotionally disconnected from all the mistakes they made in the past. And through the 9th step, through making the amends, I became emotionally disconnected from all of my mistakes in the past. That's what these things are. So those are now facts. I was also born in Georgia. It's in the same category with all that stuff. But I was looking at that picture and I was wondering if all that stuff had not happened, if that beautiful child of God had gotten all the love and nurturing he clearly deserved, who would he have become? I got my answer. The answer is that's my assignment. It is my assignment to become the man he would have become. The only question is, am I willing to do the work? The work's numbered 1 through 12, and I have become the man he would have become. I had to make a lot of changes. I had to clean up my language. I was an Air Force pilot. I was proud of my profanity. I used to go down to the docks and repulse the stevedores just for practice. He didn't use bad language. He was always in the present. He had so much faith in the people that provided for him that he never worried about the future at all. I'm trying to embrace that piece. He was gentle. He loved everyone. He was fascinated by things like caterpillars and birds. This fascination with life, this exuberance for life. That's what this whole thing is about. If you're new, I don't believe our mission here is to change you should never drink again. That ain't it. It's to change you should never want to drink again. He never wanted to drink. And I haven't wanted to drink since December of 1984. I don't have an exact date. I'm sober since June 28th of 84. I didn't get a sponsor till sometime in November. And I was somewhere in the step work, I think in the forgiveness process in step 4, the last time I wanted one. And life has happened to me since then. All kinds of things I didn't like happened. All kinds of things. But the fact is, I'm not thirsty. And I'm walking in the sunlight of the Spirit of this loving, laughing God who loves me so much. He gave me you. Thank you.
Hey, Kim, come on in. Welcome.
Hey everyone. Hi. Thank you so much for your share. That was wonderful. My question is this. You quickly went through a prayer and you said something like, God, if it's your will, we'll be together. God, if it's your will, we'll be
Yeah.
apart. What
Yeah.
was the third part of that? I didn't catch the third part.
The first piece is, if it's your will for us to be together, put us together. If it's your will for us to be apart, put us apart. Those are the easy ones. The big one is, if it's your will for me not to know today, please leave me not knowing. That's the one. That's how I get into today and stay here. And I prayed that for 10 months and didn't know, and was at peace in the middle of that storm. Thank you.
That's beautiful, Scott. Hey, Calvin, come on in, brother.
Hello, everyone. My name's Calvin. I'm an alcoholic. And Scott, I want to thank you so much, man, for everything you have done for me over the last few years, man. I never had a chance to really thank you because you have changed my soul. I tell my wife all the time, the things you have taught me, the things you have showed me, stay with me every day. And I just wanted you to know that I appreciate you, man. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Scott.
Beautiful soul, Calvin. Hey, Amy, come on in. Welcome.
Good evening, Amy Strain Duncan, alcoholic. Scott, I love
Amy.
you. Thank you for always being available and teaching. I have a question. This is for me and people like me that are kind of early in this path, as I look at you and your years of sobriety and such wisdom, such love, such focus on love, simplification of things from my magic magnifying mind. But can you tell me briefly, like, I know we're on this journey and I'm walking in the direction, but what was it like for you as you were heading in this way? What'd that look like at 10, 15 years of sobriety? So I know I'm in the right place, moving the right way.
Thank you, Amy. I love you dearly, and you know that. You and I need to schedule. I have been the victim of great sponsorship since I was sober about 6 months, and I have never had to worry about it. I have been thoroughly and well sponsored. Hey, Ralph, and God, look at all these people. I just love all of you guys so much, and it continued to. I say it this way: Satan isn't very creative. He keeps hitting me with the same old crap, you know. And they just go off stage and change costumes and come back out. And I think probably the biggest thing I learned in between maybe 10 and 15 years was to be completely honest with everybody around me. Last night and this morning, where I was in a really difficult place, that's what I did. That's what I did. And I have sat at the feet of the absolute masters of this thing. And you've heard some of the names. And for my first decade or so, I thought the most important thing that I carry is this wisdom I picked up. And it's not. The most important thing I bring to the men I sponsor in my home group are my mistakes and my pain, because it makes it okay for everybody else to be real. And that's what this whole thing is about being real. Did I answer your question, hon?
I'll take that kiss she blew you as a yes. Thank you, Scott. Thanks, Amy. Hey, Lynn, welcome. Come on in.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Scott. I'm so glad I got to hear you. That was beautiful. I have a simple question, I think. When you were talking about asking God for different things, you said when you ask about humility, what is that? You said something between me and God.
Yeah, I think I need to be reminded I'm not the living water. I'm the pipe. On a good day, I'm a plumbing fixture. And I've got my own definition of humility. And it's the ability to be proved wrong in public gracefully and embrace whatever lesson has been presented. A single event can produce either humiliation or humility, depending on where I am. If I'm in my ego, I'll be humiliated. I'll hate you for pointing it out. I'll be looking for ways to get even with you. If I'm in my spirit, I will thank you for pointing out a place that I need to grow. Same event. Same event. So for me, humility is the ability to be proved wrong in public gracefully and embrace whatever lessons being presented. That's at least part of it. Did I answer your question?
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Lynn. Scott, I wish I had a button I could push anytime I needed a wise quote. Hey, Ralph, come on in. Great to see you.
My name is Ralph White. I'm an alcoholic. Mr. Lee, thank you, sir. I love the way that you present this way of living that we have, and in a powerful way. And question. So you touched on a lot of things in terms of the 11th step and the rest. One thing I know is challenging, and I'd like you to speak to physical difficulties, health challenges. How'd you navigate that inside of the construct of what you presented today?
Yeah.
I know that's been a path.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I was diagnosed with cancer in my throat in June of 20. They took my teeth, as I'm sure you've noticed. They did so much radiation in my jawbone, it's now dead. It's still here, but it's dead. And I had so much radiation in my throat, I'm now on a liquid diet. It's permanent. And I came down a liquid diet, just a different liquid. I try to look at it that way. And the throat gives me up about every hour and a half during the night because the scar tissue sticks together and I wake up in pain. I have to drink water all night long. And the question has been, how did I get through that with a smile? And I was really able to do that. And this is going to be a difficult concept, especially for guys like you and me, Ralph, but I followed directions. It's a new concept. We should probably all write that down. But the direction, very simply, was to help others and to not focus on me. And a couple of times it really dragged me down. I'll tell you what, radiation and chemo is tough. Who knew? It's rough. It's rough as a stucco toilet seat, rough. And what I discovered was that when I get down into those sad, poor me's, I pick up the phone and call you. Say, what's going on in your life? How can I make it better? How can I be of service? And it lifts my spirit. Bill talks about it on page 15. Many times I go into my hospital in despair. The word despair means without hope. You got to go down through depression to get to despair. Talking to a man there, I'd be amazing to lift up and set on my feet. That worked for me. The other thing is I don't talk about it. I can't eat. I'm not about to watch you eat. I've recently been the banquet speaker at an AA function. I ain't attending the banquet. Thanks, but no. But I don't talk about it. I don't give it. I learned that from Sandy Beach. You know, Sandy's body was deteriorating for a couple of years before he finally died. You could not, I knew him pretty well. You could not get him to talk about it because he didn't want to give it any energy. And I don't either. And I don't either. I'll answer questions about it, but no, I'm not looking to it. But the key was, one, staying today. I didn't let myself say, oh, this has been going on so long. That's borrowing pain from the past. I don't know how much longer I can do this. Borrowing pain from the future. All the good questions contain the word today, and all the good answers contain the word today. And it's that simple. I get a limited amount of spiritual energy on any given day. If I squander on things I got no power over, I won't have enough for today's assignment. And that means I've got to stay here where you are and stay with the questions that contain the word today and look for ways to be of service. And those two things lifted me up and I was able to get through it. I get some things going on right now. I'm not going to tell you about it. You're not old enough. I love you, Ralph. You know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Ralph. Come on in, Angie.
Hi, I am Angie. I am so happy to see you again, Scott. I was blessed with many hugs when you were here in Montreal in June, and I got to feel another spiritual hug this evening. How do you quiet the committee? So I heard your response to Ralph, and I get that. I have been in an incredibly depressive state where hospitalization was pretty close. And I totally get the reaching out to others because, yes, that does help, right? I feel blessed when I'm working with a sponsee, taking them through the steps. But it doesn't quiet the committee for me to have that peace to be able to meditate and to connect to God. I've lost that ability to connect with Him like I could before.
I think I can help.
Thank
This
you.
may not be a full answer. It's working for me. I've got 3 vocabularies: speaking, praying, and thinking. 3 separate vocabularies. I must use the word today frequently in all 3 of them. And to remind me, I've got the word today written in several places. That's over my shoulder in my office. I say it out loud when I see it. This is the front of my desk. This is the door to my office. You'll know what room this is. And directly across from the commode at eye level, the word today. And I say today whenever I see them, because it's so critically important for me to stay in today. And when I do that, the committee tends to be quiet. The other thing is if one of them just gets completely out of hand, I just say, okay, thanks for sharing. If you'll have a seat, we'll call on someone else. I've got one other thing that I do that helps me stay in the day. I don't share this very often. I'm not hiding it. I don't share it. I look for the color green. According to the Air Force, I've got exceptionally good color vision. I look at a tree and I'll see at least 4 greens. I see the green on the top of the leaves in the sunlight, the green on the bottom of the leaves in the sunlight, the green on the top of the leaves in the shade, bottom of the leaves, you have to see 4 greens there. Look at the grass. Heaven knows how many greens you can see, the different kinds of grass and stuff. And when I'm looking for green, I'm right here, between the claps, right here, right now. There's one who has all power, that one is God, and you find him now. Now isn't when I find God, is where. My God is the God of right here, right now. And I work hard on keeping my mind here where my feet are. And it works really, really good. That's the problem with going into the past and going into the future. God isn't there. And when I go to a place where God isn't, it's a bad neighborhood by definition. I got no business there. That was a great question. I hope the answer works for you. I think it will. And we're coming back to Montreal. Barkley and I are going to be up there in September doing a weekend. Talk to Olaf. He's on here. He'll know about it.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Angie. And now we all know where we're going in September. Come on in.
Thank you. Scott, it is such a treat to see you. I love you. I'm so happy to be here with you. And my home group is still getting over when you came to visit us. So you'll have to come back. But there's so many questions. But one of the things that was so much fun for me tonight was watching Ralph watch you. And it just, it was a delight. All right. So I was taking careful notes. You mentioned somebody named Burke Harlan from High Point, but I couldn't spell his name. And when I looked it up, I couldn't find it.
Harlan. He only was recorded once, as far as I know. I'll give you a phone number, 407-333-4330. That's Lee Eldell. He's got a copy of Burke's Only Talk.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Yeah, Burke had 3 near-death experiences. He was dead, went to heaven, had some conversations, and came back. You should have seen this guy. When he died, I walked into the funeral home and his wife met me at the door. She was all lit up. You'd have thought it was a party. She said, wait till you see it. Burke died in his sleep. He's laying in his casket with a big grin on his face. The mortician did not do that. I had never wanted a picture of a corpse. I wish I had that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for your question. Hey, Emmanuel, come on in. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Scott. It's my first time hearing you, so thank you for your share. I had a question about you spoke about judgment, that you pray that you don't judge people and like things or like events throughout the day. But my question is, how do you tell the difference between judgment, like bad judgment, and just critical observation and, I don't know, making sense of what you're doing?
I'm not sure the difference between judgment and critical observation. There's a question I like to ask. I wish I could keep it in my mind all day long. There's just a single question. It's the same one all the time. The question is, what's the most loving thing I can say or do next? It is a fabulous question. I think it will cut through a lot of that for you. Yeah. It was pointed out to me some time ago that it's possible. It's not likely. It's possible. Everybody I meet today is doing the best they can. If they are, they're all ahead of me. I've never had it all on the road. I've been getting by on cute and clever for a long time. I've never worked this program to the best of my ability. I work it to the best of my willingness, and some days that's pretty thin. and maybe they're doing the best they can. I got no business judging them. None. It's not my job. I hope that helped.
Thank you so much, Scott. That's beautiful. I think that's a great place to end. It was a great question and beautiful share. And I'm gonna pass it back to Teresa.